Truth versus falsehood. So the word truth in Hebrew, emes or emet, is spelled with the first letter aleph, the middle letter mem, and the last letter tuf, because truth is something that's from the beginning, middle, to the end. It doesn't change. So God is the ultimate truth because before he created the world, it was only but him. After he creates the world, it was only but him. Before he is everything, the only authentic reality. Before he created the world and after he creates the world, he's likewise the only authentic reality. Nothing changes. God doesn't change. It seems sometimes in Torah that he changes. Well, I have to learn Chumash Harashi to understand the distinction and what that means. But God, the ultimate truth. What's falsehood in Hebrew is sheker. Sheker is spelled shin kuf resh, which are of the last four letters of the Torah, of the Hebrew alphabet. They are the last letters, the three of the last four letters, and they are mixed up. They're not in order, they're mixed up, right? Sheker, right? A lie, a falsehood, is a confusion of not perceiving the truth, not being authentic. There's a confusion, and it's all one-sided, right? As the letters are all one-sided and mixed up and confused. What do we have to do with a falsehood? Well, as we're learning in the Hasidic discourse of Yud Shvat, preparing ourselves for the day that the Rebbe became Rebbe 75 years ago. So from Sheker, the falsehood of the world, we need to transform it into Kerish. The same letters make the word Kerish, which means planks. Planks that were what created the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the desert, the home for God. In other words, what we need to do is to transform the lie of the world. And what's the lie of the world? Is God's not real. I'm real. Hey, I pinch myself. I feel myself. I know what I want. Right? I'm real. So we have to transform that lie into a home for God. That the planks created the Holy of Holies and the Holies, the planks of acacia wood, and we create a home for God. That's the truth. So we take from this world that the world in Hebrew is olam. Olam comes from the word helam, concealment. This world is a concealment on the truth of God's presence. We have to transform it, that lie, into a living, dwelling place where God, he's comfortable. He is pleased, right? As opposed to seeking my own comfort, my own pleasure, we seek to give the pleasure to God and making him comfortable in my material, physical world that cries out, a lie. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We conclude today the 13th chapter. 13th chapter, we have discussed of three different levels of a Beinoni, of the intermediate individual who has complete self-mastery over the garments of the soul's self-expression, which is our actions, our speech, and our cogitative willful thought. So Beinoni has complete mastery over it. And in three different dimensions that we spoke, whether it's God giving the extra help to the divine soul, whether it's the mind having dominion over the heart, or whether it is the capability of the Beinoni through their prayer to be so connected to the divine that the animal soul is completely dormant and doesn't have an opinion, so to speak, doesn't have a desire for anything except for the connection, the divine connection. That's pretty lofty. So this kind of love that the Beinoni attains during their prayer, right? Again, by virtue of the divine soul being so authentically revealed in its love and awe of God that it's a fiery, passionate connection, right? When we compare it, though, the Beinoni, that kind of love of the divine, when compared to the righteous, who serve God with perfect truth, truth is beginning, middle to end, no change. Meaning the righteous, their love of God isn't just when they're praying and feeling connected. Their love of God is a whole day through the trials and tribulations, the good times, the challenging times. Doesn't change. That's real, true service, right? But the Beinoni is not a true service. Why? Because after the prayers, reality or the material physical reality of the world and our own sense of independence of God kind of seeps back in and sinks in. And truth is something that's established forever, right? Falsehood might be only in the moment, but it's falsehood because in the moment there's a disconnect. So therefore, the Beinoni's love of God that's felt only during prayer and disappears afterwards, it can't measure up to the truest sense of the truth, the perfect truth, that of a righteous. In other words, truth is something absolute. The Beinoni doesn't have absolute love of God throughout the day. The righteous do. Whether they're drinking their coffee, whether they're praying to God, whether they are engaged with another individual in whatever manner, they have a constant love of God. Constant. That's the righteous. It's hard to fathom what that means, right? That's how distant we are from being righteous, but that's okay, right? We are Beinoni in training. But nevertheless, says the Alter Rebbe, in relation to the rank of the Beinoni, this level of love is truly perfect service. It may not be a true service through and through, but it's a perfect service, right? Their love that they possess during prayer, it's a language of truth that I've established forever. What does it mean? Well, it means because since they can reawaken that love at any time that they sit and meditate upon the greatness of God, their relationship with God, God as creator, God beyond creation, and they meditate upon that, they're actually able to bring back that love. So day in, day out, they can do that. No, when they're praying, or if they meditate, right, which is a form of prayer in of itself, right? Yeah, imagine, and the person's a businessman, so he's doing business, so he's not meditating then or praying then, right? So at that point, he'll have a difficulty. But if he removed himself and meditated and so on, then he could bring himself to that. So since he can bring himself to it, there is something true about that. That he, in other words, it's not that distant. You have to recreate it, but or just kind of bring it back. So what this means then is is that there's a concept of truth that's absolute, and that's the righteous, but then there's a concept of truth that is relative. Relative to what? To relative to the level where you're at now. Relative to where I'm living now, or the Bainani is living, that there is a core truth of that level. On a higher level, that would be truth, right? If you're on a higher level, then there's the core of that level. But there's many rungs on the ladder, and what rung you are on, there is a relative truth, the core of that level of serving God that we can come and attain.
Rabbi, quick question. Could it be could the comparison as being in this week's parsha, where it is said that the forefathers knew Hashem as Kel
El
Shaddai,
Shaddai, right?
and now Moshe with him as Yukevavke. Is that like a relative truth?
Good question. I don't know. That's a very good question. Perhaps. I guess one name of God versus another name of God, the Tetragrammaton, the Shem Havaya, is definitely the ultimate name of God. That's the ultimate truth. Whereas Kel Shaddai, relative to that name, isn't. This isn't, I guess that's relative to each other. Yeah, you might be able to say that. Yeah. Yeah. In any case, but that's not what the Alter Rebbe does here. He compares it to Jacob. That Jacob is the attribute of truth. He's the attribute of truth. He's the middle bolt that secures everything from end to end. So we spoke about we spoke about from sheker to make keresh, right? We spoke from lie to make the planks, same letters, move them around, make planks. Those planks that were used to make the Mishkan, the home for God, the tabernacle, right? They had in the middle of it a bolt that went all the way around and connected everything. It went through the middle of they bored a hole in the middle, and it went in the middle of the planks. I mean, for simple meaning, to hold up the Mishkan, right? And it shouldn't flop in the wind, right? That's what it did. Fine. However, I mean, not however, it's in the middle. So this is a metaphor, as a truth is the bolt that goes to the middle, to the core. Middle's core, right? Like in the body, the core work that you do in your, right, of exercise in the mid body, right? So here's the mid of the Mishkan, the home for God, that the bolt is going through. And that's the idea of truth is relative because it's touching the core of the level that you're at. So the Bainani can have the attribute of truth because each level in our divine service is the core of that level. Now, that's not absolute truth, right? Like the tzaddik is absolute truth. His love doesn't diminish because he's eating breakfast. I eat breakfast, my love is diminished of God, as opposed to teaching Tanya, right? Because there's a love of my palate. There's the love, of comfort food that gives you comfort. Got it? That's not truth. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, God's not there, right? By the tzaddik, it's not. The tzaddik, now the Bainani also doesn't have the love of God at that time. No, he doesn't have the love of God at the time of eating food, right? Mm-hmm. He just doesn't eat it for his own pleasure. He does it for the sake of heaven, but not out of the love of God, right? That's different. It's much more deep. It doesn't allow the pleasure of the palate to control him, the Bainani. but it's not done out of the love of God. But that on that level, there's truth to it. There's a truth to that. And their relative truth is found by the Beinoni as a result. Every level has its relative truth that the Beinoni can strive towards, as opposed to absolute truth, which is what the tzaddik has at all times. With that, we conclude chapter 13. So for me, an important message over here is for all of us. We are not going to live by absolute truth, but we can live by a relative truth. We can live with a relative truth. In other words, wherever we are in our divine service, try to connect to the truth of that level. There's higher levels than where we're at, and that's even a greater truth. Okay, we're not there, but where we're at, try to make it real, authentic, make it the truth of that level that you're at. What does that mean? You have to come to TRC for that, which we had a wonderful TRC last night. Any questions, any comments?
Yeah.
Welcome to Jersey Yid, to Basi, to Joe, Brett, Orthodox Icon, Marilyn.
Potential.
Yes, Menachem Hill, you had a question.
Yeah, I was going to say that even that relative truth is present continuous, it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, what exactly? Because you're here today, so on this level, there's the core of that level that is the truth. Tomorrow you're on this level. Next year you're on this level. So then it's based on the level that you're at, not where you were.
But it also requires that the individual, prepares his clay to receive more as he or she grows.
Yeah.
Because I see from the point of view that one may become intellectually aware of growth, but one may not have the capacity to receive. In my head, I know what needs to be done, or what should I do or not do.
Okay, so then the question is, what's the true core to try to adhere to based where you're at today? Where you're at today? I think the very fact, gentlemen, that you ask yourself that question, that, will we always get it right? Maybe not. But the fact that you ask yourself that question, right, gives you at least a desire to find more authenticity in your divine service. That itself is beautiful. That itself is beautiful. Yeah, I don't see. Is that the truth of the level we're at now? Of our discussion?
Now?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. It's relative.
No.
No,
Not even relative. Not even relative. Okay, happy birthday to Chaya Miriam.
Potentia. I don't know what the difference between potentia and potential.
Eugenia, do you mind the front door? Thank you. Yeah. Wouldn't the Beinoni struggle to contain his desires be manifestation of the love of God? The struggle to contain. Yeah, absolutely. But that's a general statement. Then there's the level that to try to strive to find the truth of the level that they're serving on. Right? I hope. Yeah, thank you, Eugenia. Good question. All right, folks. We're going to learn Rambam now. Today's the yahrzeit of the Rambam. It's his day of passing. Passed away. $1104. You want to check it up? In 1104. So how many years is that now?
1104.
Did he pass away in 1104, the Rambam? Just look up and ask.
Yeah, he was born in 1040 to 1104, yeah. 1040. So that's year what, 22, year 20. So that's what year? 20. So that's 921 years.
921 years ago. Ooh. All right. Okay, folks. We'll come and join us in Rambam.